In what ways does your media product use, challenge, or develop forms and conventions of real media products? So in our film trailer, Yasmin is the main protagonist. She is an Asian woman. This is very significant because not many films cast an Asian person or a person of an ethnic background in as the main protagonist of the film. Yasmin's also a woman, which is quite significant. So there's been a huge uprise in the amount of women-orientated films and women leads, and this kind of conforms to the trend going on and the whole equality push that's happening for women right now. So Yasmin also isn't very conventional in the fact that she's not trying to be pretty. So her role in the film is more of a dark role, is more of the kind of evil role, and she's not there for the male gaze. She's not for looked atness or anything like that. The clothing is very dark and conventional. It's very typical for thriller films to use dark clothing, but it typically shows the sadness and the depression and the darkness in someone's life, which we try to portray through her clothing too, and the mise-en-scène, especially using the dark color scheme of the film. So especially in color grading, we try to make everything a lot darker and a lot more contrasting, a lot less bright. And finally, the title of the film is Living for Death, which is a binary opposition or a juxtaposition. So the words kind of contrast themselves in between themselves, they conflict, and that makes for a more interesting title. So yeah. So our film poster is a lot more conventional. It follows the same structure as most thriller or drama films. So there's a single person in frame with a shallow depth of field. On mine, she's not very focused on the camera is not very focused on her facial features. It more captures the expression and the feeling that she's having right then at that moment. So we use dark colors, so it's a very monochrome scheme, using the lighter background as a contrast to her dark clothing and her dark demeanor to make things in the foreground, i.e. Yasmin, the protagonist, stand out more. It also promotes the dramatic effect in the film, and it is very typical for independent film posters to use awards on the poster. So it's no different on ours. We feature 4. So what that does is it attracts buzz for the film. Independent films rely a lot more on their critical acclaim rather than their marketing. So yeah, that's no different for our independent film poster. So my magazine is called Once Upon a Time. Once Upon a Time refers to the fantasy storytelling kind of aspect of films and how it makes you feel out of this world. So it kind of makes you forget everything for a little while. So the film magazine kind of emphasizes on the feeling that you get from films and the euphoria. The slogan is something that contrasts with it. The slogan is "No fairy tales told here." So that refers to the honest opinions and the reviews that the film produces, but contrasts with the Once Upon a Time and childlike meaning behind it. Yeah. It conforms to the idea of using an illustration. This is a convention that's usually found in independent magazines. They try to use the aesthetic and the main image of the magazine cover to draw in readers. So by doing that, they tend not to use taglines or cell lines, and by doing that, it focuses more on the aesthetic, and that's their intended goal, I guess. The magazine is very conventional, regardless of whether it is a independent or a professionally published magazine. So it uses a single person in a close-up, and yeah. So my film magazine uses an illustration-like look I edited a photo on Photoshop to make it look like it was drawn or illustrated, and I think the final outcome was very good, and it looked very artistic. And yeah, and that's how my media products used, developed, and challenged forms and conventions of real media products.